Hi, this is Jess Mahler, and this is my video for Module 2, Self-Assessment. So to reintroduce myself, I am currently a learning support teacher at Central Dauphin Middle School. I taught 7th grade English and 8th grade reading this past year, and we just finished up our last day of school with students today on Thursday, June 9th, so it's very exciting. We just have Friday as like a teacher in service to pack up our classrooms, and then we are done for summer. So I'm looking forward to a restful summer. Although I will be teaching ESY for our secondary special education students. So I get a little bit of a break in June, and then we start up ESY July 5th. So um, I'm excited that the year is over and excited to have some time to relax. The blended learning video discussed 5 teaching shifts that we are going to see with the shift from regular teaching to this blended teaching. So the first one is from lecturer to facilitator. So I feel that this would be an easy shift for me because I feel that I already do this with my students. I act as more like a proctor, and I check in with students and assess their knowledge whenever they are working independently. So I feel like I am there to facilitate, and I'm not always constantly like at the front of the room lecturing students. I have them, work on their own independent learning activities that I check in with them throughout the process to make sure they're understanding, and then facilitating any help if they need any help. The second shift was using fixed groupings to changing it to dynamic groupings. And I feel that this is something that will be a little bit more challenging for me. I've always kind of used that fixed grouping, like the high group, the low group, the middle group. And I do try to change that up every so often. But in the video, it said you should be doing that weekly, which I definitely don't do that weekly. I think now I probably do it once or twice a marking period. So that is an area that right now I feel a little bit challenged with. The third shift is from explainer to intervener. Again, I feel like I am pretty good with this one already. As I mentioned before, as being a facilitator, I am checking in with the students, and I will be able to intervene and assist them as needed, depending on those informal check-ins. The fourth shift is from content focus to content skills and mindset focus. The curriculum that I mentioned in my introduction video, the Read 180 curriculum, there is a whole unit focused on mindset at the beginning of the year that we do every year. And it really just gets the students thinking in a more positive way and looking at school as not something that should be a burden to them, but instead as something that is a challenge that they should be able to, step up to the plate and try to attempt. I do think that I can incorporate more mindset and skill-based practice within my lessons instead of just relying, heavily focusing on that content. And the last shift is from generalist to specialist. I just finished up my 5th year teaching, and I don't think I quite have an area that I feel like I'm most confident in yet. Since I do teach learning support, I've kind of been given a couple different subject areas to teach the past couple of years. For example, I taught 7th grade math, 7th grade English, 8th grade English, 8th grade reading. And I believe next year I'll be teaching 7th grade reading. So, with the changing of subjects and the different content areas that I'm teaching each year, I don't feel like that I have quite reached that level of being a specialist in a certain area. I feel like that I am still more in the generalist area. I will be discussing some important competencies that were included in the Blended Learning Teacher Competency Framework. So first, the framework starts with mindsets around the outside. And this includes a new vision for teaching and learning and orientation toward change and improvement. Next, in the purple inner circle, is qualities. This includes grit, transparency, and collaboration. And in the innermost circle, it's a split between adaptive and technical skills. Adaptive skills include reflection, continuous improvement and innovation, and communication. The technical skills include data practices, instructional strategies, management of blended learning experience, and instructional tools. So the ones that I felt were most important, I chose one from each of the domains, and I have them listed here. So from Domain 1, Mindsets, I chose Competency One, which is a new vision for teaching and learning. I chose this competency because more specifically, I really enjoyed standards A, B, and C. Standard A discusses a shift to a more student-centered learning. In the blended learning videos, they discuss that shift. So obviously, I feel like that is important to include because the teacher is now acting as more of a facilitator instead of the lecturer at the front of the classroom. So it's definitely more student-centered. Standard B is the value of collaboration. I think collaboration is a great tool and it's a great way for students to learn. And I think that online learning is a great way to incorporate that as well. And Standard C was providing a flexible and personalized learning environment. Because students are learning online, they are providing real-time data constantly, so teachers are able to use that, provide feedback to students, and adjust learning as needed. From Domain 2, Qualities, I chose Competency 3, which is collaboration. I chose collaboration because standards A and B describe using teamwork and the ability to learn from and with other experts in the field. I previously just finished the ACTE632 online learning environments course. And in that course, we learned about OER, which is called Open Educational Resources. And these are things where teachers are able to go online and download all of these really great resources for free because of the content licensing. It's open licensing. So teachers are able to use them as long as they provide credit to the original source. So I think collaboration in the field with online teaching is really important because teachers have a lot of great tools to offer and great things that you can be using in your own online classroom. For Domain 3, adaptive skills, I chose all three competencies because I feel that these are pretty much the most important for online learning. Competency 1 is reflection. I feel that teachers should always reflect on their instruction and identify a plan of action if things aren't going as planned or if students are excelling and they need to provide more challenging content. So definitely reflecting on lessons is important. Competency 2 is the continuous improvement and innovation. Teachers should always be improving their lessons and making it the best as they can for students and using that data to inform their decisions. And I also think since they are online, it provides them a lot of opportunities to use technology creatively. So they need to, do their best to continue to make those lessons challenging and engaging for students to complete. And competency 3 is communication. I think that since teachers are online, they still need to be cognizant of interacting with their students and providing them feedback in a on a more consistent basis because they are not seeing them, face to face in person. So I think it's important that teachers have that open form of communication and provide students multiple ways to communicate. So, for example, they can send the teacher an email. They can set up a Zoom meeting. They can schedule like a phone call with the teacher. So providing different avenues for students to get in touch with the teacher and communicate with them is pretty important for the learning process. And the last competency that I thought was pretty important was from Domain 4, Technical Skills, and it was Competency One, Data Practices. So, as I mentioned previously in the other competencies, it's important for teachers to collect data and then make decisions based on that data. So, if a student is struggling, they need to provide more interventions. If a student is exceeding, they need to provide more challenging information for the student so that they can further their learning. So, using that data and collecting it in a consistent manner is important, and especially in the online learning environment where students may be in a lot of different places in their learning. So teachers need to assess where each individual student is and be able to provide the supports as needed. I think overall, I have a lot of these important competencies already. And I think that is because I have been taking a lot of these courses already, and I only have a few courses left to complete in my online master's program. Um, Now, I will not be teaching over the summer online, but I plan to, play around with these online tools and figure out different ways to incorporate this into my classroom so that I can have a more blended learning classroom for next year. Some things that I do want to improve on that I believe is a weakness for me is that communication piece. While I do communicate with students and their families about their progress, I don't always provide, immediate feedback right then and there. Sometimes it takes me a day or two to grade papers and get back to students. And I think that having that more immediate feedback would be more beneficial to them so that they know how they're doing in that moment. So that's definitely an area that I can improve on. And I think really I can improve on any of these areas as well. But I think that communication piece is probably my biggest weakness at this moment. So I'm excited to learn some things in this course that I can use in my own classroom next year and make it more of a blended learning classroom.